What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Frequency Factory video. Today we're going to go walk through how to replace a cooling fan in that Ampeg SVT II Non-pro. Now this one is working fine, but it is starting to make some noise, so that is kind of a pain. So I did order a new one. We're going to go ahead and do a step-by-step pulling that out, replacing it with a new one as you see on the desk here. So follow along and hope you learn something. So I put the camera back on the tripod so I can move around, show you some things step by step. Don't mind the bench. I seem to get everything cleaned off, and then within a few days I get a whole nother mess of stuff that I'm working on or trying to reorganize. So don't mind the clutter around the outside of the amp. So on the fan, when you pull it out, there's going to be 4 screws, one in each corner. Now this one is missing one, so I'm going to take some dimensions off of the original screws so I can get one ordered, can get that replaced so it's held down correctly. One thing you want to note, I was already working on this amp, so I never put the top back on. So you just need to pull all the screws out of the top, pull the top off. That's going to give you access to the fan itself. At the top here, there's going to be the Phillips head portion of the screws. Now you also have to note that on these Ampeg SVT II Non-pros, the fans connect to the AC term board. That's underneath the amp. We have to pull the bottom off as well. One thing just keep in mind on the top part here, if you haven't worked on amps, always the biggest concern is dealing with high voltage and electricity. So top part of the amp, you really don't have any place that you can maybe get in trouble with electricity. But once we flip the amp over or turn it on its side, pull that bottom off of that amp and start working under there to get those connectors off the AC term board, and then rerunning the wires for the new fan. You are pretty close to a lot of the power board capacitor connections. So you want to make sure you're not bridging any of those or touching them with any part of your body on that board underneath, just to make sure you're as safe as possible. So first step, take the top off, get access to the fan. Like I said, it is a Phillips head. Should be able to use just a number 2 regular Phillips head. I'm going to be using this Matco. You don't need something fancy like this one. I just happen to have it because I got a good deal on it through a friend's shop. This is not your traditional number 2 Phillips head, as it does have protection along the handle, and the shaft of the screwdriver is rated for 1,000 volts. So it's good for working in high voltage electronics with helping reduce shock risk. Again, you don't have to have it. Just something that I do have, and it is nice to have. So let's get started. So I have my 3 screws out. Oh, they're just loose. They're not out completely. As you can see, this top shroud is going to come with it. It does lay on top of the fan and is held down by the screws. Just watch when you're pulling these screws out. Not only are you going to be pulling a screw, but there's also a lock washer, internal tooth lock washer, that's going to be coming out at the same time. So you just want to make sure that comes with it, doesn't fall down, get lost somewhere that's going to be bouncing around your amp. Take a chance of losing it, and then it's going to rattle around your circuit boards, arc on something at a later date. As you see, that was just, I loosened all 3 screws. That was just one screw coming out. It does screw out of the chassis itself, but then as you're pulling it through the fan, it needs to screw or unscrew out through the rest of that fan as well. I'm going to see if I can get these out. And usually you can just pull them out, pull the guard and the fan all at once. Yep, there we go. Just didn't have one completely undone. So as you see here, let me get a little bit of better lighting over here. Sorry about that, didn't realize the lighting was so bad, but as you see, shroud comes off. 2 of the 3 screws for that fan shroud are out. As you can see down in here as well, fan is now able to start pulling out. It does route through the chassis. And to give you a better look, I have the fan laying off onto the side. We can look down into that power board. So you can see the new capacitors that I had placed in there, as well as a couple resistors on that board. You can also see in the back, and let me grab my poker here, non-metallic poker. Got a sweet one that I borrowed from Joe's Crab Shack. As you can see here, what I'm pointing at is one of those ferrite beads that I had replaced on that board that goes to the power tube. So you can kind of see some of the mods that I made during, or not mods, but upgrades per Ampeg during that rebuild process. So let me get this thing flipped over, get that connectors pulled off that AC term board, and we'll move forward and getting this fan replaced. So I got the amp flipped over here. I just put it on its side. That way I can get at both sides of it, not just flipping it over. Taking the bottom off is as easy as pulling out all of these screws. I believe they're like a number 6. So just pulling those out. There's usually one in the middle as well. Just get all the ones out on the outside. This bottom panel will start coming loose, and then we can pull it off to get access to underneath to where we can unhook that fan. Like I said, it hooks to the AC term board. According to the schematic, it hooks into J2 and J8. So I didn't bore you taking out all those screws. I know a lot of you are probably like, oh my God, I really wanted to see you take out screws on the bottom panel, but I saved you from that monotony. As you can see, panel's off. We're looking at that underneath again, and see where the wiring goes for that fan. We just get this bottom piece out of the way so I'm not struggling with it anymore. Trace this wiring to see where the fan wiring routes to that AC term board. Alright, so as we're going through here, get a little bit of better light on here for you guys. The wires are actually tucked back here. Had to cut off a couple of the zip ties. They're routing right down through here through the main loom. They come out the back side here and come out to this term board. So got to finish following those down through. I have a couple more zip ties to pull off here. This amp has quite a few more zip ties than what I've normally encountered on these. I think some of them are factory. Other people have definitely been in this amp over time. So just routing my way back through there to find out where they go. All right, just so you guys can see, I'm not sure if you can really see, you can see the two black wires back in here. They're tiny little wires. They run all the way down through the harness. Then they come out at this junction here. So here's one of them going down to this connector here at the bottom. And then the other one kind of routes in the back. When I did remove that term board before, it's routed behind the station for the standoff for the AC term board. So this connector here, this one down here are the ones I'm looking at. I had to pull out some new Molex connectors so I can get those replaced. Also, I see another Molex connector, a non-Molex connector in here that while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and replace this out just to get it back up to the better connector that looks like it's a pretty crappy connector. Go ahead and swap that out as well. So as you can see here, the new fan that I have just has some wire leads on it, not quite long enough for what we need. Also have to put some connectors on here, so I'm going to go ahead and lengthen these leads. Go ahead and put on a couple connectors and get us going here. All right, so I have the new fan. Just temporarily laying in here. Got the wires run through the hole. Then I'm going to come around to the other side. I route the wires through. Let me get some better light over here. Move this around. So as you can see, I pull the wires out and I make sure they go kind of closest towards the chassis. And that way I can run them outside of this wire loom, easily put more zip ties back on there. And I'm gonna go ahead, I made these a little bit long. I always do that, and I'll save the spares because you never know when you're gonna need that little piece of wire. I had to extend them, as you can see, the connection and heat shrink here. Gonna go ahead and put new connectors on these, get these hooked up. Once I do that, then we should be able to bolt the fan back up and plug her into the dummy load and the power and give it a test run. All right, before running the wires and kind of getting everything hooked up back up, I wanted to get the fan back in just so I don't make those leads too long and I got a bunch of rat nest wiring in the bottom of that amp. So I already ran one bolt in here. I'm going to run another just to hold the fan into place while I can then run the wires and know exact length that I need. As you can see, it's kind of a juggling match. They don't give you a whole lot of space to work with here. And I'm in. So let's get this one tightened down. Awesome. So now we got two bolts in. Fan is in place. All right, I now have everything buttoned back up. Wires are zip tied back in place. New connectors on the new fan. We'll straighten up the wiring a little bit more before I put the bottom back on. As you see now, if I flip the switch on, no more clanky fan that was hitting the side of the fan housing. Nice fan breeze coming off of there. We are now good to go. Hopefully this one will last quite a few more years as well. If you guys have any questions, comments along the way, definitely let me know. I will post the part number for the fan. So as you can see here, this is the schematic for the AC turn board where the fan connects. As you can see, it connects at junction 2 and junction 8. There is the fan part number. Now this is for the SVT II Non-pro. I haven't checked it against my schematic for the SVT II Pro, but I have one of those as well, and I'll be replacing the fan in that, so I'll be doing another how-to video on a fan for 2 Pro. Seems to be somewhat of a common issue with these. After many years of use, they don't have a smooth operation anymore. They start clanking and clacking off the sides of the housing. So now that we have the fan replaced, it's kicking along pretty well. Had it running now for a few minutes just to make sure everything's good before I button everything back up. As you can see, this thing is ready to go back in tip-top shape for another many years of excellent Ampeg tone. Thank you guys for watching along. Definitely comment, like, subscribe, hit that bell button to get notified of new videos that are coming out. Like I said, I'll probably do another one here in the next week or so for an Ampeg SVT II Pro fan swap as well. They're pretty similar. But thanks for watching. See ya!